Eleanor, who did justice to Mrs. Jennings's kindness, though its effusions were often distressing and sometimes almost ridiculous, made her those acknowledgments and returned her those civilities which her sister could not make or return for herself. Their good friend saw that Marianne was unhappy, and felt that everything was due to her which might make her at all less so. She treated her, therefore, with all the indulgent fondness of a parent towards a favourite child on the last day of its holiday. Marianne was to have the best place by the fire, was to be tempted to eat by every delicacy of the house, and to be amused by the relation of all the news of the day. Had not Eleanor, in the sad countenance of her sister, seen a check to all mirth, she could have been entertained by Mrs. Jennings's endeavours to cure a disappointment in love by a variety of sweetmeats and olives and a good fire. As soon, however, as the consciousness of all this was forced by continual repetition on Marianne, she could stay no longer. With a hasty exclamation of misery, and a sign to her sister not to follow her, she directly got up and hurried out of the room. "Poor soul," cried Mrs. Jennings, as soon as she was gone, "how it grieves me to see her! And I declare if she is not gone away without finishing her wine, and the dried cherries too! Lord, nothing seems to do her any good. I'm sure if I knew anything she would like, I would send all over town for it. Well, it is the oddest thing to me that a man should use such a pretty girl so ill, but when there is plenty of money on the one side, and next to none on the other, Lord bless you, they care no more about such things." "The lady, then, Miss Grey, I think you called her, is very rich?" £50,000, my dear. Did you ever see her? A smart, stylish girl, they say, but not handsome." Marianne goes up to bed. Eleanor comes back down. In the drawing-room, whither she then repaired, she was soon joined by Mrs. Jennings with a wine-glass full of something in her hand. "My dear," she said, entering, "I have just recollected that I have some of the finest old Constantia wine in the house that ever was tasted, so I have brought a glass of it for your sister. My poor husband, how fond he was of it! Whenever he had a touch of his old colicky gout, he said it did him more good than anything else in the world. Do take it to your sister." "Dear ma'am," replied Eleanor, smiling at the difference of the complaints for which it was recommended, "how good you are! But I have just left Marianne in bed, and I hope almost asleep, and as I think nothing will be of so much service to her as rest, if you will give me leave, I will drink the wine myself." Mrs. Jennings, though regretting that she had not been 5 minutes earlier, was satisfied with the compromise, and Eleanor, as she swallowed the chief of it, reflected that, though its good effects on a colicky gout were at present of little importance to her, its healing powers on a disappointed heart might be as reasonably tried on herself as on her sister. So we've got our ingredients list, and we have some idea of what we're trying to achieve. So time to assemble the ingredients. Mrs. Jennings mentions olives. I'd imagine they were slightly harder to come by in the Regency era, but for us, fortunately, we just have to pop down to Sainsbury's. Be quite generous. Oh, I forgot the first component was a good fire. Also on the list we have sweetmeats. I don't really know what exactly a Regency sweetmeat would entail, but the only sweet thing we really have in the house is jam. So I'm going to have jam on some bread. So we've got some fancy bread, because obviously this is a luxury treat. Some rather nice jam. So this is from our local farm shop, raspberry, peach and amaretto. So I think that's a treat. I think that's going to work wonders for a broken heart. next on the list is dried cherries. We don't actually have any dried cherries, but we do have some mixed dried fruit here. Oh, little almond in there. It's a couple of different kinds of raisin, and I think there are some dried cranberries, so the idea is there. Finally, and I feel most importantly, Mrs. Jennings advises the finest old Constantia wine. The closest thing that we have got to red wine in the house at the moment is some red wine vinegar that I got from Carrefour when I was in France. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on the olives. I love vinegar, but drinking this by the glass might be carrying that love a little bit too far. Right, there we go. So we've got fire, we've got sweetmeats, we've got olives, we've got dried fruit, and we've got red wine. Now we just need to find a broken-hearted girl to give it all to. And hopefully she won't run out of the room like Marianne does.